Good afternoon and welcome to ABW Radio Live. My name is Chris. I will be your host as usual. Budget Jesus in the house. I am joined in the parish this afternoon by the good Time Lord himself, number 98 on the team sheet. It's the button monkey, Mr. GFP. Afternoon, Danny.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm a little bit better than I was this time last week, in one respect. And I've been causing mayhem. You haven't muted the YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
That was me.
And I've been causing mayhem today. So more on that later.
I'm excited to find out.
Let's get someone else on board, shall we? So let's go for our number 4. It is the Colonial Canon himself, Mr. Jason Schrader from the Mercalands. You right, Jace?
I'm good. Sorry, misstep there with the YouTube channel not muted. It's like I told Tom, this isn't preseason anymore. We got to be on our game.
Absolutely, we're going to raise our game.
So there I am pulling an Arsenal and getting something wrong very early on in the season. So apologies. I'll head back to the training ground and learn how to mute better.
You're more professional than me. At least you have an office and a background. I don't have either. So you're allowed. But you got more money than me, so blah.
Professional or more of a loser? It's a fine line when you get into podcasts.
Let's say professional. I like professional. That sounds better. Right, we're also joined by number 14 today, and that is Mr. Hugs for Canton. Hiya, Tom.
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all gravy, mate. I'm all gravy. I like the symmetry behind your shirt in the background, and Jason's got the same shirt on. It's good.
Good.
Only Danny's letting the side down, as always.
What are you on about?
Shirts, Danny.
I saw Robbie from AFTV wearing one, and if one can fit him because he's a fellow chunky monkey, maybe I should get one. I heard they're 5XL. This is a 5XL, and look at it. There's enough room for 2 of me. But I bet the new Puma ones, I'll be like this.
Wrapped up like a corn dog.
Don't start me on those bloody things that contain no corn. Or do they?
They do. They're actually, the breading is cornmeal. That's why it's a corn dog.
Welcome to a MasterChef Wonderland. Right, let's talk about some Arsenal, shall we? That's what we're here to do. That's what the good people in the chat box are there to do. Good afternoon to all you wonderful men and women out there. Thank you all for joining us. Much appreciated. Right, so let's go in reverse order. Let's talk about the game. Tom, give us your initial thoughts and your general sum up of today's game.
Yeah, it was good. If you want to call it good, I can call good a win now because that's all we can call good after a game like last week. We still had that typical Arsenal feeling at the end of, we just got to hang on and get those 3 points. But I thought the team played well. I mean, we were all over them in the first 20 minutes. I mean, so many chances spurned, especially by Sanchez, actually. But we got the goal, amazing goal. Even though, like, Giroud's acrobatics were excellent. However, the assist from Ozil, as I'm sure we'll go on to later, was sublime. And the goal, yeah, it was poor defending, and from the Crystal Palace goal, and the last goal, it was just getting a header and getting a bit of luck. So that's all you want when you're playing a team like Crystal Palace.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely well said. Jace, give us some more flesh on the bones from your perspective on the game today.
Yeah, I absolutely hated the second half. Was akin to sitting down with your computer to watch some porn, and the only thing that you can find is Granny Gangbang on. But you'll make do with it because it's going to get the job done. And we got the job done today with 3 points. But geez, more performances like that against teams that are more decisive and better skilled than Crystal Palace are, and we'll be in real trouble.
Granny gangbang. Honestly, I have no words. I'm speechless. There's no words for that. But what a lovely analogy. I don't think they're going to use that on Sky Sports. I might be wrong. Imagine Thierry Henry. Oh, he was a bit of a granny gangbang. Terrible French accent. Anywho, big show. Danny, sorry. I just saw a little comment from Stan there. You always get one every week. You go, well, it's the big show.
I've had it for years. Even Lee's son, who's only 6, went, "You look like the big show." I said, "Shut up, you're a Tottenham fan. I'll give him a backhander."
As long as you don't choke slam people through tables, we're all right.
I'm only 5'10".
Oh God.
Left and right and top to bottom.
You're kind of the medium show then. That's good.
Average.
Give us some preachings from your good chapel. What did you make of today?
Well, to summarise it, Wenger hasn't learned his lesson about playing Ramsey wide or playing Cazorla wide. That hasn't worked yet again. I know we differ on the Cazorla thing, but opt to agree with me. A little bit disappointed to see that yet again Mertesacker and Koscielny were our furthest forward players when they shouldn't have been. Yet again, Koscielny fucking up, giving Czech no chance with that goal, going, oh, look, there's a ball coming. Tony Adams would have gone, come on, fucking kick the ball at my testicles, I don't care. And then as soon as the ball went in, Koscielny went, oh, well, never mind. And Tony Adams would have been, come on, you car Lady Gardens. Car Lady Gardens, that's what I was saying. Yeah, and I thought the referee was absolutely appalling. How the hell did we get the free kick when Monreal tried to take that bloke's head off? What was going on there? I thought Palace were really unlucky. Nice to see John Solarco on the bench not to be as a player, but as a coach on the bench for Crystal Palace. If people don't know who John Solarco was, go and do a quick YouTube of him. The man was absolutely brilliant, and he was one of the people who made Ian Wright and Mark Bright the players they were. Yeah, I thought Palace were unlucky. Really, they should have really got a draw in that game. There again, if we'd have played for the first 15 minutes, for the rest of the game, not we played the first 15 minutes, we'd have won that about 7-3. So an interesting game. We won. Can't complain. Look back in history books in a decade time, let's have a little W, and that's all I'm worried about.
7-3 is an interesting choice. I should just apologise to anyone watching on live or not live. I've got a stinking cold, so if I immediately just go quiet for a bit, it's because I'm coughing or sneezing of some description. So I do apologise. Before we carry on, I'm just looking on Google for is it that gangbang granny? Is it .com or .net? 'Cause I can't seem to find it here. Don't pretend you haven't already got it. You know it's in your hard drive.
It's a .co, just .com.
Oh, here we go. There you go.
It's one for the private gold collection, I think you'll find.
Jim lad.
Yes, there you go. Little cough there. Sorry. Right. So we will be keeping you across 22 cunts and a ball at Manchester, by the way, so we'll let you know how that gets on. Sorry, I said the C word. I do apologise. 22 bad men and a ball. Right.
Twats.
That's it. Twats.
Twats.
Twats in Puma pants. Right, let's carry on. Jay Cedars, I've got you. Let's wax lyrical on some Arsenal players, shall we? I love that phrase. Talk to me about a certain German who wears number 11 today.
My favorite German that wears number 11 for Arsenal, actually. I've been a big defender of his over here in the U.S. Robbie Mustoe was in a heated debate with Kyle Martino on the pregame show about what Mesut Ozil actually brings to a team. To which I about jumped through my television to choke him and ask him if he's ever watched football. And I think today he showed his quality. Actually, I think it was his first pass was like one of only like 2 or 3 that went awry. I think he had like 98% pass accuracy. I think he had 5 chances created, obviously the assist. So a lot of people, though, they want him to be Sanchez, and they want him to be the player that runs all over the pitch and has this high, engine that especially the English media seem to want to have, that they think that every player should have, and he's just not that kind of player, and we've got to get that into other people's heads because he is a magnificent world-class player, even if it's not by what the traditional standards would be that we would measure that for. So I think he had an outstanding game. There are a couple of times, when he gets a little frustrated with himself on some things and can get down on himself, and I don't think he was very happy being subbed off today because I think he feels that he may have left something out there a little bit. I don't think he's one of those players who, he's happy to come off when he needs to, but he feels like I think today he felt like he could still contribute to this team and help us push forward and close the game out a little bit better. And I like to see that passion. You want to see that from people, that they don't want to be pulled off, they don't want to be subbed off, and just do their job and then come on the bench for the last 20 minutes. But I think people have got to get it through their heads that he's never going to be have the motor, the engine of Sanchez. But if you look at the way that he does break and the speed that he has early on in the game on that sort of that 3-on-2 break off of their set piece, you can see the intensity that he does have, and he can easily switch from that languid, fluid player into just a straight up, locomotive train coming right at you on a counterattack.
Well said, and I pretty much agree with everything you said there. That too many people expect him to score goals, and that's not what he's in the team to do. I think the most he's ever got is 8 in the season, so you have to be realistic, I think. But Tom, I'll come to you just with regard to Meza and indeed the goal. The pass, I mean, we'll talk about Giroud's finish in a minute, but that pass, the vision to be able to execute it, and it's almost perfection. It's like Giroud didn't really have to do much with it. In fact, he probably had the time really to just take it down and slot it, but we all know what he did. But just talk us through that goal.
Yeah, it was a perfect example of what you get told to do in training when you're going to cross the ball. You put it on the penalty spot, and that's where the danger zone is for when you're going to score a goal, and that's exactly what Ozil did. But to play it in such a way where it was just at the right height that Giroud could still get a foot on it and get enough accuracy to score a goal, and at a pace so that the defenders couldn't even react, because any other normal player would probably just float that ball in and hope someone would get a nick on it or whatever. But Ozil has the confidence that he can swing a ball in at that sort of pace, and Giroud will deliver the goods, and he certainly showed that. The pass itself is so tricky to do, especially when you're running at full tilt as Ozil was. To get the accuracy on it is I don't know how much more I can go on about one pass without using words which probably aren't in my vocabulary. But it was certainly a special moment, and even though the goal was spectacular, for me the assist well overdid it.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. It was a lovely little assist, and well, he's just a class player, isn't he, Mesut? Let's be honest. Danny, Olivier Giroud, I know you've stuck up for him, as have I. I think I said in our group when he scored, I was like, yeah, it's a good job, Mesut. It's a good job Olivier Giroud isn't good enough for Arsenal up front, isn't it? Well taken finish. I thought he led the line pretty well today. I know you're slightly different viewpoint to me. What's your thoughts on the big, handsome Frenchman?
The French lamppost, lucky to score, really. He's lucky that he's got the service of Sanchez and Ozil playing behind him, because if he was playing in a normal Premier League team, I think that 8-game goal drought would continue up to maybe double figures quite easily, because I don't think we've had enough pre-season games. We had 2 meaningless ones in some meaningless cup. We had the Emirates Cup where each player probably played 1 game, and then we had the Charity Shield. That is a terrible pre-season. A pre-season should be 7-8 games. You should play the first half of them away to make money, because that's all about money. The second half of them should all be at home, against maybe the first 2 against local teams, and then the last 2 against slightly tougher teams to get ready for the season. Because going by the last game and this game, our team are not playing as a unit like they should be. When Sanchez and Ozil aren't playing, I don't think we could beat anybody at the moment. Bellerin being back made a massive difference, which was really important. Seeing him go down the right hand side is a thing of joy. And with the Giroud up front, I think my favourite moment of the game is when Sanchez to Ozil diagonally to Giroud, and then Giroud should have scored. Well, I think it was close. No, it wasn't Giroud, was it? One of those 3. I did write this down because I forgot which order it went in. But when it went diagonally, two diagonals in a row. I'm confusing myself now. What was that? Who did that? Because I remember thinking it was Giroud, and it wasn't. It was in the first half.
First half, yeah. Sadly, Cazorla was involved.
I think it might have been Santi, Ozil, and Sanchez, actually.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Because the ball went from there, diagonally there, and then diagonally that way, and then you see all the Palace players running that way, then all of them running that way, and then fluffed it right at the end. But I think I was surprised that Theo didn't get a game, because Giroud he was working his arse off, as he always does, and he's always got. It's always hard for him to, because he's not the quickest on the ball, is he? Whether it be running or whether it be turning. And you think of a player who's 17'6" like he is, probably one of the tallest players at the club, apart from the centre backs, that we would try and utilise his ability for headers. And I think in the last 2 seasons he scored, or the whole time at Arsenal, I read a report from January this year saying that he's only scored 4 headers in the Premier League for Arsenal. Now, a player of that size, I think his last season with Montpellier, he scored 5 headers alone that season. So I think sometimes, I don't think Wenger wants to play the kind of out wide and crossing balls in, but at times like when it's 1-1 with Palace and we're pushing on near the hour, I think we should do that, because that is a part of our game that we should utilise, which we don't. And far too often it's get them on the break, run down, and then all trip over each other and do nothing. So, yeah, I think I would like to see Theo start that game because I think with a little bit more pace, Theo would have had a much more productive game than Giroud did.
I know. I take your point. I know a lot of people said the same. I personally, I was happy with Giroud. I think Tom, you said in the group that you'd like to see Theo running at pace with those two defenders. I personally thought Giroud was fine, mainly because I think he brings Alexis into the game more, and I think it's all about. I've said this a few times, but I think it's all about partnerships, how well players play with each other. And I think sometimes you've got to play the right player that fits the system that you're going away from home with. Don't forget we had Bellerin back today, in Monreal, so both fullbacks had the opportunity to get forward, Bellerin in particular. And I think that plays to Giroud's game. On his heading side of things, I agree with you. I think we probably should score more headed goals, but let's be honest, we don't, as you said yourself, we don't really put the ball into the box for those sort of situations. And for what it's worth, the little things Giroud does, I thought his movement today was exceptional. Every single time, he pulls off that sort of that far post area, or he pulls centre backs around, and yeah, sometimes he does go down, and the whole finger wagging thing can be a bit French. But he is French, so that you're going to get that. I personally think he's more than good enough.
Did you just say he's going to be French because he's French?
No, I said you're going to get that because he's French.
Are you sure?
Well, he's a little bit French, but because
he's a bit French because he's French. I'm sure that's what you said.
Well, whatever I said, you know what I meant, cheeky monkey. Sorry. But yeah, I for my money, I think he's very, very good at what he does and very underappreciated. That's just my opinion. We'll come on to We'll come on to underappreciated players in a minute. Rant alert. Jace, let's come back to you. I know you had a sort of a point on Giroud, which Danny kind of waded in and stole from you. So I apologise for that.
No, that's good. That's good. It's fine.
But
as long as it was quicker, that's the good thing.
It is absolutely. We're all on the same page. Let's just talk about the goal that we conceded. It wasn't clever on a number of areas, particularly Laurent Koscielny turning his back. Now I know a lot of people have said that they'd like to see Gabriel play, and the logic is that he would be the replacement for Mertesacker. And now a lot of people are starting to go, actually, maybe it's sort of longer term for Koscielny. Now, I personally think Kos is fantastic, but he's not been the best start to his season, is it really?
No, it hasn't. You see a player turn like that, and you see it all the time. Whether it's Koscielny, whether it was a couple of their players doing it. It happens in every game where you turn. You try to get sort of a deflection and the ball. I honestly don't necessarily blame him for turning because it's just something you see all the time. Maybe they need to sort of be trained out of that habit. But I really think that it was just a great effing strike more than anything else. But as far as Koscielny's concerned with Gabriel, I'm going to do what what I've not really heard any other podcast do. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Koscielny and Mertesacker and Gabriel and Chambers right now because it doesn't seem like any of the defenses. We've got Gabriel and Chambers. Can Gabriel speak enough English and understand enough English to really hold down a spot and be able to communicate well with the rest of his teammates? Chambers is young and hasn't had a ton of games at center back either, and you wonder what disrupting the flow between Mertesacker, Koscielny, and Czech would do right now if we did start to maybe tinker with the defense a little bit. I think Danny was actually spot on when talking about preseason. It just wasn't long enough. We didn't have enough games that against decent competition to really to test ourselves, and then we'd go straight into a season against two teams who did very well in the summer in the transfer window, got some new players, and have got great expectations for this season. So I don't know if we should change it up. I think one thing that we probably do need to start to do, and Kris, you can start with this since you're a coach for a Sunday side. You coach some kids as well, is start teaching them not to turn their backs. That's the biggest thing. But even if he didn't turn his back, I still think that shot was going in. He ripped it just flat, knee over the ball, laces through the ball. It flew, had a great little flight pattern to it just off the ground, and it's tough when we do that. I don't necessarily want to blame one person because I don't think it was any one person's fault on the defense. I just think he just happened to make a great play at the moment and got a goal for his team that put him level with us. So. But yeah, I'm gonna call all you youth coaches out now to start training your kids to stand in front of the ball and take the deflection and take the shot. I mean, when I used to coach baseball, I coached catchers because that's what I was, and at one point I would literally just throw a baseball from about 15 feet away straight into the chest pad of the catcher. You know why? Because he's going to need to get used to that pain. Because it's going to happen in a game, and you need to know what it feels like so you can be able to move on. And maybe that's just what we need to do: just line some 8-year-olds up and just blast it at them.
I'm glad you said blast it at them as well. We would have been highly liable for God knows what there. No, I'm with you. The one thing you can't teach, Jace, is guts and bravery. You can't teach that. They've either got it or they haven't. And I agree with you. I think the days of Danny would probably speak better about this than I would, but the days of a player throwing himself in front of a ball to stop it at all costs, I think, seem to be a little bit behind us. There are still players out there, John Terry, people like that. They will put their bodies on the line. And don't get me wrong, I've seen Koscielny and Mertesacker both throw their bodies in the line, but it's more of a desperation, throw the body on the line.
Are they worried about getting the ball in the testicles? Because Jason might know, been in sports, and bloody Twitter's been a tit. Being in sports, I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and he said there is a new kind of metal bit you put over your gentleman's relishes, your family jewels, that you can kick them as hard as you want in there, and it is not going to damage you at all. And in fact, they've banned it in MMA because people were using it to put it into your coccyx and like that. So what are they worried about? Is it getting I mean, do they wear any protection over the jewels, or are they just scared of the ball? Because in the old days, the central defender would go, yeah, kick the ball at me, it makes me harder.
So, one, on what we have as athletic cups, I don't know if you guys have those over in the UK. As somebody who did play catcher and had breaking ball pitchers where the ball bounces and everything, whether it's metal or not metal or padded, it's still hitting you in a very sensitive region. And yeah, I mean, I don't know of anybody, protected or not protected, that ever wants to get hit in the nuts. I just don't think it's a great feeling. I think the one thing, like you guys were saying, is it is guts, but then at the same time, we a lot more of it is reactionary. Like Kris was saying, when they do throw themselves in front of these balls and everything, I think maybe Koscielny just had a little bit too long to think, and maybe he's trying to have another kid or something. I don't know. Maybe he's saving up for the for something with his special lady friend, and just wanted to make sure that today wasn't the day that it ruined that chance. So I just don't know because we haven't really seen that from him before. So I don't want to just all of a sudden call him out for one time turning away from a ball, and now all of a sudden Koscielny is this pansy who doesn't want to defend. I think maybe he thought it was going to turn or curve a little more, so he tried to turn to deflect it away. You obviously don't want to concede an own goal in that situation, but I think we're being sort of microcritical of one instance in a game where the other team made a good play, and we're so used to trying to assign blame to our players. Maybe they just had a good play. Koscielny, made the wrong decision. You move on from it. I don't think it's something that he's routinely going to do or has done in the past, so there's no reason for me to really be concerned with it at all.
No, I think that's a fair point. We're now officially a Baby Maker Wonderland podcast. But yeah, I mean, I suppose the only other criticism I would have is that when you turn your back on a shot, the ball can hit you anywhere, and that can in turn deflect into the net. If you face it full on, the only place it's going to go is at you and then back at the person who's kicked it. It's very unlikely to hit you if you face it up and then flick off and go into the net. That shot could have flicked off anyone and gone in the net. So,
what do you do with your defenders for the Pirates? What do you say to them? Face it, or do you get annoyed if they turn?
There's a joke coming here, isn't there?
Oh, no.
No, I mean it's like Jay said. Even for youth level, you teach a player to be brave, and you teach a player to put their body on the line for you, and that goes for the whole team. You want your players essentially in the trenches with you, as the saying goes. To face up, take it where it hurts. I know I've had a ball. I was going to say I've had balls in the face before. I'm glad I changed made it all X-rated again. But no, I mean I've taken many powerful. Oh God, there's no way of saying it. I've deflected many shots with areas of my body that hurt. There we go. That's the easiest way of doing it, and it does hurt. But these guys are elite athletes and they're men, and they've got to take that at times. And maybe it's a British thing. Maybe so it's sort of some of the foreign players are not used to that element. I don't know. It's very hard to say. What I will say is it was a split-second decision. He turned his back, the ball ended up in the net. We move on, like Jay said. Tom, I do want to ask you though. Arsenal fans on Twitter going a bit mental. I mean, who'd have thought? I mean, this never happens, of course, but a few people were calling out Petr Cech and saying it was another error. I'll freely admit when the ball was hit first, I did think, crikey, that went past him at quite a speed. Or could he have got down quicker? Having seen it on a replay, for me, I don't think he could. I don't think he could have done anything about it. Do you have any differing views on that?
It was nothing to do with Cech in my eyes at all. I think the shot was extremely good. As soon as he hit the ball, I was like, "Well, that's going in." So for me, it was so far in the corner. Cech's not going to reach that, and it is Koscielny's fault that it wasn't defended properly. I mean, we can sit all day and saying you can't teach guts and you can't teach a player to stick their neck out on the line, but he should have done, and he shouldn't have turned his back on it. At the end of the day, we can say, oh, it's happened once, it's happened whatever. But last week when Cech let in 2 goals, people were gunning for his head. So I don't see why we can't gun for Koscielny's head in the same way. For one mistake could have cost us a game. And if we'd have drawn that game or even lost that game, it would have been catastrophic, especially for the manager. And then Wenger's put his head out on the line, playing Koscielny in the first place, having confidence in him, and he's let him down there, which is a little bit disappointing. I personally would still stick with him because I'd like to see him redeem himself in the next game against Liverpool, which is a massive game. I don't think you can change it too much, especially after winning as well. So you can't change it in that sense. But after last week, people saying, should we swap out Mertesacker for Gabriel? I don't think it's Mertesacker people should be moaning at the moment. If anything, it is Koscielny, and I was disappointed in how he reacted to the shot. But fair play towards. I mean, it was a great effort, and he should be applauded for that. But yeah, I was disappointed with Koscielny.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And as Arsenal fans, we're one of the worst fans for always demanding perfection. That is the way we're kind of wired. So we always expect the best. So and these players are not above criticism. So I think when they're due it, we have to criticise in a fair and balanced way. I might add, rather than just effing and jeffing.
Go on. Read a comment in the chat box.
Yes,
Pixel
absolutely.
Rapture. I'd take a kick in the grapefruit. It's £500 a week.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I'd probably stand there and invite a kick in the nuts for that, to be fair.
I think Stan the Man started it off with 150 grand a week, but no fucking around. Pixel Raptures come straight in, 150 grand, 500 a week. Any offers for lower than 500?
To be honest, I'd take 100 if it's a kick in the nuts. I mean, I'm done with baby making, so if it's a kick in the nuts, that's cool with me. Right, okay. Danny, while I got you, you mentioned earlier on. I think you might be wrong here. I don't know. I must admit, I only got back in at the start of the game, so I didn't see the actual formation. But I noticeably thought that Santi Cazorla was much better today, and for me, it was because he was playing in the correct role, which was alongside Coquelin. You possibly didn't think that was the case. What did you see from the lineup? How we lined up. Obviously, you've mentioned you would have had Theo instead of Giroud, but I just thought Santi was much better in that deeper role. Did you think he was playing left or right? Or
I think our disagreement was I knew he was playing in the centre with Coquelin, which is really good. But our disagreement was who got man of the match. WhoScored.com, who used Opta Stats, gave Koscielny 7.9 and Cazorla 6.9. And that's what the disagreement was. No, I love the way that Cazorla is probably the best in there, depending on the game, because I notice a lot of the time Coquelin will go after someone like a terrier, get the ball off him, give it to Cazorla. Cazorla will wait, everyone will get back in position, then Cazorla will start pinging it all around the park, which is what he's there to do. So I thought he played an okay game, but I thought some of the times I think a couple of times he got forward and he wasted what he had. I don't think he has the confidence that he had a couple of years ago. I know when his first season here, he was one of our best players and he was playing out wide, but times caught up with him and he does an okay job there. But I think I'd only play Coquelin and Cazorla if I was playing 3 in central midfield, which you can't really do too much. The West Ham are going to fall back a little bit when they're defending, but I would rather see Ramsey in the central midfield because he's a goal-scoring threat. You're never going to get a goal from Coquelin and you're never going to get a goal from Cazorla. So I don't think I don't want to play both of those at the same time. And I think, if anything, of late, the last 2 games, Coquelin has come off early because he should have been sent off in that game twice, because he should have he got the yellow card, and then he got another one which he should have got a yellow card, and then the third time he should have got another yellow card when they called Mertzacker over, and the referee said, "Oi, tell him to sort his life out," and then Wenger pulled him off. Now he did it in the last game as well, didn't he, against West Ham?
Yeah.
And
Although that was more in necessity than anything else, I think.
That's because we were losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if Coquelin was such I suppose if he is the defending, the holding midfielder kind of job, then you're not really going to want to have him on when you're 2-0 down, so I do quite understand that. But yeah, it's times like this that I think, well, maybe we do need to go out there and get ourselves another defensive midfielder, and that'll bring you nicely onto Mr. Arteta.
Yeah, I will do. I want to go to Tom in a second. I'll just make a quick point on that though. One thing I would say with Coquelin is that again, I'm going to call out certain people on social media here. I've seen some tweets, and I'm not going to give people the time of day by atting them because it's pointless. But I've seen some tweets from various sources of people, oh, where's Coquelin gone? Why is Coquelin suddenly shit? And all. I mean, seriously, let's just take a little bit of a reality check. The guy is a really talented footballer, and he's very good at doing what he does. These players are entitled to have a couple of bad games. It does happen. Even the very best players have off days. I didn't think Coquelin was bad today. I do agree. I think he was walking a very fine line. The one thing I would say that I like about Coquelin is that he's willing to make those sort of cynical little fouls, those pulls of shirts, those little trips. Palace played with 3 out-and-out pace merchants today because they knew they could run at us. And I think personally, it was a good thing that Coquelin was in that position, so he could just make several times, probably 3 too many, but he made those little cynical fouls, and it gave us a chance to reset. So, people that are saying, "Oh, he's not good enough, we need to upgrade on him," I mean, it's just fanboys looking for players, looking for transfers. So, just give the guy a chance. Tom, what was your point you wanted to make about the lineup today?
I was really disappointed in the lineup before the game came on. I think that Wenger was still being a bit naive with the lineup in terms of what he learnt from our defeat last week. I mean, I know in the end we won the game, but before the game, I just hate the fact that we're not using this selection dilemma that we have. I mean, we had this selection dilemma of having players in more than one position, and the fact is that Cazorla and Ramsey both would play in that central position next to Coquelin, and we need to stop playing players out of their satisfied position by playing Ramsey wide. He said continuously he wants to play in the middle, and for me, even though Cazorla played very well today, I would have started Ramsey instead of him and started Ox on the right hand side. Last week's game, we lacked so much width, it was unbelievable, and to be honest, today all of our stuff came in. Other than the first goal, was coming straight through the middle and playing balls through there. And I just felt that with starting Alexis on the left, and plus because he's a right-footed player, he's going to want to come inside like he did to have his shots. He pulled across the box and took pot shots when he could. And then you have Ramsey on the other side, who's always he's tempted to come inside because he wants to play centrally. So I really think we need to stop abusing the selection dilemma that we have and start playing players in the correct positions.
Yeah, it's definitely a debate to be had. I think that's a fair point. I was all right with it. Controversially, I actually think that Cazorla Coquelin really works, and I really like it. And I think that if there has to be a player that is going to miss out at times, I think it will be Aaron Ramsey. And I know I can hear Neil going no from here, but I don't get it wrong. I'm not slating Aaron Ramsey. I love the guy. I think he's class, absolute class. And
why would you say Ramsey's problem is then? Because he has been nothing short of terrible all season. I put it down to the fact that he's not playing in the central midfield.
Exactly that, yeah. He's not playing the right position. And yeah, and what I would say is there are certain games, I think, at home where we can get away with playing in central midfield. And I think there will be games where we will play central midfield. But away at Palace, I don't think is a game you really want to be. He had the opportunity to play central midfield on against West Ham, and ultimately, however much I like him, he failed. He failed that.
And then his confidence will suffer because he's out of position. Yeah. Then the boo boys will be on him, and then that will suffer make his confidence in. And then Wilshere will come back, who I don't think ever has confidence issues. And then you got 4 players fighting, and then maybe Arteta. And then you got 5 players fighting for 2 positions. But yet we only have 1 or 2 wingers.
But the other thing
Ridiculous.
you have to look at again, and I know I've banged this drum to death, but the front three, four, well really the four in midfield or five in midfield and the one up top, they're all interchangeable. Positions. This is 2015. This is modern day football. Players play in different positions. You didn't see Sandy Cazorla just stay in the centre. He did drift a little bit. You saw Giroud pull wide at times. You see the fullbacks come on past the midfielders. It's a fluid system. So. It's going to change, but excuse me. It's going to be a little bit of a switch around. Jace, you had something on this, and there's lots of exclamation marks there. So
yeah, I do, because it was the first really 10 to 12 minutes after the cock went off, to excuse the expression, and the Ox came on. Everybody for that 10 minutes, we had nobody down the right-hand side in front of Bellerin. We had the Ox in the middle, we had Santi in the middle, and then we had Ramsey in the middle. At what point do we have to communicate to one of those people? And it probably should have been the Ox. Take Ramsey off the wing, because we all know Ramsey on the wing is the shittest player for Arsenal and blah 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 whatever. Put Ox over there, but for about 10 minutes, there were a few times when Bellerin would get the ball and nobody was in front of him down the right side for an outlet. And to me, you can talk about players really wanting to, he's a central player played out wide. Yeah, that's fine. They're always going to drift where they're more comfortable. Arsene Wenger's got to be able to tell these guys ahead of time, like, look, I understand that this is, where you're at, but you're going to need to do something for the team and stay wide, because we had no width down the right side at all today. I think we maybe put in like one or two crosses from that side. There were a few times when I saw Ramsey on the left, and I thought, oh, okay, him and Sanchez have switched, but no, Sanchez was still in the middle. There's absolutely nothing that could keep us from being able to play with wit other than our own stupidity and stubbornness of our players. And at some point, Wenger's got to step up and say, look, you've got to do it for the team and stop being so selfish, because if we would continue to have that width in the outlet on both sides, then maybe Cox's passing becomes a little bit better because he has more options to the left and to the right. And I think it's just this very systemic problem that can be solved with a simple conversation. And it would surprise me, honestly, if Ramsey did train out wide before this game. I bet he probably trained centrally whenever they were doing everything. Whenever they were having their 11s go at it, at some point during training this week. Why not just go ahead and put him out wide? Let him get there. Let him get more comfortable there, instead of saying, all right, well, during the week you're going to be in a central role, but then on a game day you're going to be out wide. If we know that's going to happen, at least on, I know with the Railhawks, and when we train, half of the practice on Friday is your first 11 up against, another side really for the team, and everybody's pretty much in the position where they're going to start. We'll just put him out there for a little while and literally make him stay wide, force him wide. And it's just instruction that I don't think Wenger is giving, and I think Wenger needs to step up a little bit more in this department, because I know he wants his players to have the free reign and the ability to sort of do what they're more comfortable with on the field, but at some point it's becoming a detriment to the way we play, and it frustrates me that he's unwilling to either see that and acknowledge it, or he does see it and he just doesn't care.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think to a degree, and I think this, hopefully this backs up your point there. If not, then feel free to tell me I'm wrong. But I think it backs up your opinion that maybe sometimes we're just a bit too fluid. And I know that sounds absolutely mad, but sometimes we're just a little bit too open, a bit too expressive, and sometimes you do have to dig in. And Tom made the point when we come live on air that it was a bit of a, why is it always Arsenal sit there? We're all crapping ourselves, clinging on with 10 minutes to go, because we're too fluid. Sometimes we need to just sit in and go, right, you're not getting past us now. For 20 minutes, we're sitting in, we've got our lead, you ain't getting past us, that's it. And I thought we did do that to a degree today, but there were still times when I looked up and saw, Per or Cos bombing on, and you just think, ugh.
The other part of it is when we're so good, we can be so good on the counter.
Yeah.
We saw what we could do and how decisive and quick and threatening we could be. We could have a great athleticism with a lot of our players. To go back to Thursday's pod, on a counter, we have the speed. Even with Walcott out, and even with the Ox on the bench, you could see the speed that we had when we had that breakaway a couple of times early in the first half. And why don't we try to utilize that a little more against these smaller teams? Give them some possession, bed in, keep your shape, and then when you get the ball, break and attack with purpose and speed. And we've got the players and the tactical ability to do that. And it just seems like we let that sit on the back burner until we play somebody like a Chelsea or a City or a United.
Yeah, I think some excellent points. Good debate, that, gentlemen. Good debate. We'll move it on a little bit. For those of you who don't know, Sergio Kun Aguero has just scored for Man City, which is lovely. So that's good. And also a couple of just to give a couple of nods to a few people in the chat room. I see Rob Parrott's in there. I've seen Akshay has just popped in. Tasha Nunez in Trinidad's there. Pixel Rapture we mentioned earlier. A few regular. I know the bearded wizard is there himself, Mr. Welsh. So. A big hello to everyone. Right, Tom, let's come to you and move this talk on to the goal that got us back in front. Our chiseled Chilean is probably going to try and claim it. Not sure that he's going to get it. There's a little bit of a dispute as to whether it's going in or not, but it ended up in the net. Were you always confident when we went back in front we were going to hold on to it? Was it a touch of good fortune, or did we work hard? Did we work hard enough to gather that luck that we got with the goal?
It was definitely a fortuitous goal. I don't think that can be denied. I mean, there's been a lot of debate whether it would have gone in or not. I don't think it would have. I think there was enough players in the box to clear it away, and that was shown by Delaney actually getting a foot on it. If he'd have been a bit more composed in his clearance and not so rash, he might have actually been able to get it away from goal. But unfortunately for him, anyway, that it went in, and more fortunately for us. But I definitely think we were worth the second goal. I mean, their goal definitely came against the run of play because we were absolutely battering them before that. They definitely weathered the storm after our first goal. But I think we definitely showed ourselves enough to deserve to win the game and get that next goal. It's just I wish we'd have gone on and killed the game rather than having to sit and defend, which is where my point about bringing Walcott on for Giroud would have been. Even though there's been arguments about the defensive side, Giroud's good from corners, but I just feel we got in behind them quite a few times, and if we had a Walcott up there in the latter stages of the game, we could have killed it. But the goal's good. I'm happy it went in. I celebrated as if it had been a 30-yard screamer. So at the end of the day, I'm happy that we went 2-1 in front, because if we'd have gone 2-1 behind, it could have been easily a repeat of last week.
Yeah, I agree with that. It doesn't really matter how they go in, as long as they go in at the end of the day, doesn't it? And it's all about the 3 points. As I think a certain gentleman who blogs for us podcasts at a time with that title. So, it's pleasing. I want to have a little debate with Danny. I think Danny, you're kind of on my train on this one. But a certain number 8 ventured onto the pitch. I'm amazed, because apparently his career's been finished for 6 months. Amazing that he's still playing.
Lucky to be alive,
isn't it? Just, but our club captain
carried on the pitch.
Yeah,
he can't move anymore.
He goes around with those golf carts.
He's got no ankles like Michael Owen. He's got no knees.
Yeah, apparently so. Now I've been on the Arteta train all summer, and I'll stay firmly on it. Choo-woo. I'm not sitting here for a minute saying that we don't need potentially another defensive midfield option or somebody who can play in that role. I would still like to see additional reinforcements in that area. So before anyone says that, that is my feeling. I do think we can strengthen. But to say Arteta's finished, this myth about his legs being gone, I just don't buy it. I really don't. And I thought today he came on. He was the right player to come on at the time. I felt he was the right player to use against West Ham, and I thought we actually got it wrong there. Personally, I thought he should have played against West Ham, because his tempo was right for that game, or his pace dictation was right for that game. Danny, I think you're on the right, or on the same sort of train as me, on the right kind of lines as far as thoughts go. He's not finished, is he? Let's be honest.
Absolutely not. Not even close to being finished. He come on, and the first thing he did was get stuck in, and then if there'd have been a player who'd have been worried about his ankles because he was out for 6 months most of the season, on and off, didn't he break his ankle at some point or something like that? I can't remember the exact injury that he had.
It's the calf problem, that recurring calf problem that he had last season.
I thought it was his ankles.
I think he had ankle originally, and then that led to the calf confusion. I think
It's never ending, is it?
issues.
But he come in and he got stuck in, and you thought, well, that's brilliant. His first game back, and he's already getting stuck in and doing a job. And I'm just looking here. How old is the bloke? He's 33. He's 11 years younger than me, and I could still go out there and have done a better job than some of our players today, because I'm being a little bit harsh on them, I suppose. But yeah, he did good, and it's good to have a player like him on the bench that can come in and play anywhere. He could play the holding midfield, he could play the central midfield, or he could probably get away with playing the attacking midfield if he come off the bench for short lengths of time. And if he just want to play in the holding midfield, well, then I reckon he could play the entire 90 minutes. Give him 5 or 6 games to get back into his into form. And then he could come on and do it. Yeah, last season he only played 7 Premier League games, and like people are having a go at Czech and saying, "Oh, Czech's around past it." Right? Like, you get any professional player and say to him, "Last season you only going to play 7 games." Of course, it's going to take him a while to get back, but he's still got a couple of good years left in him. And he said, like, he was nice enough of a gent to say made an announcement saying the club have offered me a 1-year extension, I think it was, and I wasn't ready to accept it unless I knew I could play. Didn't he say something along those lines?
He basically said that the word going around from what we heard was that he was offered a 1-year contract, and he said he refused to sign it until he was 100% sure that his legs could allow him to do it. And so he wouldn't take the club's money until he was sure he was fit.
And he came on today and he did the job, and it was good knowing that you got someone with an old head on in midfield who knows what's going to go on. I think as soon as he came on, he shored the game up. So then I still would like a proper defensive-minded midfield who's in there for tackling and breaking up play like the Cock is. But I think Arteta will do the job if we don't get anyone in. But I would rather much get somebody. God, I can't even get my words the right way around. I would much prefer to get somebody in and not have to rely on Arteta. But then I think Arteta, like Flamini, can cover all kinds of positions, and it's good to have squad players in there, and he's obviously quite happy to be a squad player.
Absolutely, and it's funny how, and I'm not saying they're the same type of player because they're clearly not, but it's funny how Pep Guardiola manages to find Xabi Alonso in his team every week, isn't it? And he's the same age. Funny that's all I'm saying. In the interest of fairness, though, and this is not a backslapping parade. Jace and Tom, I'll go to you both. Jace first. You disagree? Give us your thoughts.
I disagree on some of your points. Yes. One, I do think Arteta's legs are gone. I don't think he can last in this league with a pace for more than 2 starts at a time, especially once you start getting fixtures piled up. You start looking at December and around the Easter time frame when they're coming hot and heavy at you. Akshay actually put in the group chat, it's a great shout that he'd be a great captain for the cup teams. And I 100% agree with that. I do think he still has something to offer to the team. But today, while he was very consistent and solid, and you're right, he didn't make any big glaring mistakes, but you could just see that he's just slightly off. And I don't feel comfortable putting him as a DM, to be honest with you, because his recovery pace today, at one point he was sprinting, and I forgot exactly who it was that was beside him from Palace. But the Palace player was jogging and was outrunning Arteta at what seemed like a full sprint for him. That doesn't mean that he can't contribute to this team and make it. But I think this is probably truly his last season with a top level team in the Premier League. And he's been a great servant to the club, and I would love to see him come on as a first team coach and pass on the wisdom and knowledge and sort of that strategical mind that he has for the game to our players. But I just don't think that for long periods he's the person that we could rely on. And you put anybody with pace running at him, and I think 9 times out of 10 the player with pace is going to get by him and put us in a dangerous spot. And I think that's where it's going to go, because what's going to happen is we're all going to say, oh, he's great, and then he's going to mess up one time and he's going to get caught out on his pace, and we're going to be like, crap, why did we put him in this? And it's just I already see the narrative that's going to be written. And like I said, there are going to be times when he can play, especially against teams that aren't as pacey. And he did fine today. I think it helped. I think it was Balassi came off, and they were trying to play a little bit more of a possession game when he came in. So I see why Wenger brought him in. But there are going to be times when he's going to be brought in this season, and it's I'm going to need to put some depends on because he's probably going to make me crap my pants.
Well, it's a fair argument, and Tom, I'll come to you as well in a second. I think that you make a fair argument, Jason, and I think I think that's the good thing. There's arguments for and against, and I'm with you that you can't rely on Mikel Arteta to play 20, 30 games a season. I agree with that. The one thing I also do think is that potentially we could bring another midfielder to the club in light of Jack and now Thomas Rositzky's injury, and I think who better than to get somebody acclimatised to Arsenal and what it is to be Arsenal than Mikel Arteta. The guy clearly, he uses class and he's clearly a leader, and there's a reason he's the captain. And granted, I'm not saying that just because he's a player he should play every week, and you can't just keep somebody around because they're a good bloke. I agree with that,
Correct.
But at the same time, while he is still a footballer and he is still completely capable of doing a job, who better than to have a Christian Bielik learning from or a potential new signing? So that there's definitely an argument there. Tom, just briefly before we move this on, do you want to just throw your 10 pence worth in as well on that?
Yeah. It's not that I want Arteta out the club. That's nothing to do with my opinion. I'm happy for him to stay in the club. It's just I feel, as you saw today, the reason why Arteta isn't enough is because of Coquelin and his tendency to put the clumsy challenge in, and he's going to get suspensions. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. And worse than that, he could get injured. We don't know his style of play is that he loves to go in for a tackle, and some tackles for the tackler can go very wrong and they can injure themselves. I feel that we need to bring someone in. I think a lot of people are calling out for strikers, and myself being one of those people calling out for a wide forward. But the position I'd rather have is to bring in another cover for the DM, because who knows? The game that Coquelin gets a suspension could have been the 2-0 away win at Man City last season, and where he played amazing. And we need someone to come in and not Arteta. When you've got David Silva and Aguero and everyone running at you, you can't rely on Arteta to be the one tracking back. I'm quite happy for him to come in the last 15-10 minutes of a game and sit and be calm the play down and play those passes that I know he can do, but he certainly cannot keep up with when you're at the end of a game and you're sitting. You can't have someone who's going to be lagging back like Arteta is. I mean, he's the slowest man at the club, and using Xabi Alonso as an example, the only reason why he is that sort of player who can play in that Guardiola lineup is because he plays in the Bundesliga, and you haven't got teams like Man City and Chelsea and Man United and Liverpool and godforsaken Spurs in that league. And Xabi Alonso is a lot more a presence than what Arteta is for me. He's a name, first of all, and that can scare a lot of players. He's a lot better passer of the ball, and he's held on to a lot of his quality as he's got older, and he's recognised that he can't be the fitness, and he can't run around as much, so he's limited his game to what he can do. But yeah, I'm happy for Arteta to stay at the club. I just feel that we need to bring someone in for sure.
Yeah, that's fair point. And what we've just done there is prove, that you can have a reasonable debate about this, and there are points for and against. I don't think I'm 100% right, and I don't agree with everything that you guys say against it. So I think absolutely
I'm 100% right. I'm 100% right.
So,
well, of course,
I'm American. I'm 100% right.
Absolutely, and somewhere Dom's sitting there going, no, I'm right. Clearly, it's all about me. But no, it's a reasonable debate, and one that we've got how long until the end of the dreaded transfer window? Another sort of 15, 16 days. So who knows? We may well get the midfielder that we're all craving. As I say, if we were ever going to do it, I think probably with the injuries to Jack and Thomas Rositzky does leave us a bit short. From what I can gather, Bielik has gone on strengthening training. So I think from what I can gather, he's basically on the Sonogo diet, where he was sent away for a few months to sort himself out. And that from what I can gather, that's where he's gone. I think he'll be around the club, but I think he'll be in the gym more than he will be on the pitch this season. So that's got to be done. Let's move this along then. It's not too much more to cover really, so we'll turn to some listener questions. But I do just want to touch on the league and how things are shaping up. We can't read into league tables after 2 games. I don't think you can even read into a league table after 8 games, to be honest. But they have had 2 games played. Chelsea are currently losing, which is always a pleasure. The Man City fans giving the Chelsea physio standing ovation is hilarious. But we've seen Manchester City start well at West Brom. We saw Manchester United kind of limp to 2 1-0 wins, but they were wins nevertheless. We've seen Spurs, well, be Spurs, which is always good. I just want to get a view from you guys, or how things are looking from the league perspective. Who you think could be our biggest threats? Have you changed your mind about who the sort of teams to watch are? Danny, let's start with you. Just you were looking away. Sorry.
I've just killed a fly. So I just asked the offspring to get me some elastic bands because I put his face through his arse and it worked.
Ninja
Fucking
GFP.
fruit flies.
Just what I'll do is I'll come to you for both an individual kind of thing. So with you,
Yes.
I want you to tell me about Manchester City. What did you think of them the other night? And do you think, have you changed your opinion on where they might end up finishing, or how big?
Yes, I have, and in quite a big way. I think. Thank you very much, dear. I think they are going to win the league because look at it now. It's all kicking off. Costa is going mental. He's got some kind of concussion. Cahill got concussion. Come back on again. Well, I don't know. I'm just guessing. But when you've got Costa being dragged off by his mates and he's got bloody, looks like he's wearing a hat made out of bloodied bandages. Chelsea are falling apart at the seams, and Mourinho has lost the plot by blaming everybody apart from himself. And Chelsea seem to, I mean, Man City have seemed to have gone, well, we nearly won it last season. We fucked up between Christmas and about 5 games to go. With 5 games to go, Man City pulled their finger out and they had a great run, and that's why they finished runners-up. And I think Aguero, if he stays fit all season, and Yaya stops thinking it's a one-man team, Man City are going to win the league by a bloody country mile because Aguero is probably the best striker in the world at the moment. His goals-to-game ratio is almost a goal a game. Yaya, for someone who is meant to be, people say he's a defensive midfielder, which is an invention by FIFA and Championship Manager. He's not. He's box-to-box who can score goals, and he's one hell of a player. And I've got pictures of him playing in an Arsenal kit when we played Barnet, and then Wenger said he's not ready. Shame. That would have been great.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that Man City are going to win the title now, and I think Chelsea are going to implode because there's so much shit going on at that club where they're all arguing and fighting amongst each other, and all their major players seem to be on the edge of falling apart, like Costa. You never know whether he's going to make it through an entire game without part of his body falling off.
Oh.
Cesc doesn't seem to be doing anything that he was doing last season. He only had half a good season last year. So, no, I think Man City have definitely surprised me in the way they're gone, and Arsenal have surprised me in the way that they've been so slow to beat easy teams. You know, we beat West Ham. West Ham come to us, beat us 2-0 at home, and then they go and lose at home to Leicester. That's the summary of how good West Ham are and just how poor we were that day, mainly with our shooting, which is why I think we might need a striker, someone who isn't going to take 8 shots at goal to score 1 goal.
Yeah, some good points made there. And with Chelsea, I think, well, with Costa, the guy's a nut job, which is always good. Tom, let me get your views, and I've picked out Chelsea for you. Have they? I'm pretty sure they haven't impressed you, but have you been almost surprised at how they appear to be imploding, and more importantly, how their manager seems to be so interested by Arsenal every week? It's strange, isn't it?
Oh, you picked me for a reason for this subject.
I did indeed, didn't I?
Yes, I hate Chelsea. I hate them more than Spurs, so it's a good person to go to, I guess. But yeah, Mourinho is just I remember that there was that whole argument with him and Wenger, and he said that he had a whole block of files back of comments that Wenger had made about Chelsea, and I reckon you could feel the Empire State Building with the amount of comments that Mourinho's made about Arsenal, and probably not even in response to something. Like earlier today, he said something about some teams hasn't won anything for 15 years. So obviously that's his maths going a bit wrong again, and we know who he was talking about. So there's that. But I was surprised at how they started their game. They were very naive defensively. Courtois was an idiot coming out of what he did. I mean, a lot of people scapegoated Cech in the first game, but come on, if this guy's meant to be better than Cech, and he's a reason that they sold Cech over Courtois, he shouldn't be making rash decisions like coming out and taking out Gomez for sure. But yeah, Mourinho he's a media lovey. Like, he loves the attention, he loves everything about it. I mean, you look back to the Bradford game where they lost to Bradford in the FA Cup, and he made a point of going into the Bradford dressing room and shaking all the hands of every single one of their players just to make it about him. it's just he's just a attention lover, and that he always will be. And I really hope they implode this season. I'd much rather see Liverpool get in the top four than Chelsea any day of the week. So, yeah, that's my views. They're never going to change. I hate the club. I hate how they're money driven and that they have no history before 2003. So.
Fair enough. No, I'm with you 100%. And one thing I would
Well,
say
they
as well,
Division 2 champions at one point in the 80s. That's a little bit of history.
that's before football was invented, Danny. You know football was invented in 1993. Come on.
Sorry.
But yeah, I think you're right, Tom. One thing I would say with Chelsea is I think that a lot of how they set up hinges on John Terry, and I think he's going. I really do think he's doing a Rio. I think he's on the way out. Without him, it might all fall apart. But just quickly, Tom, have you changed your view? Do you still see them being up there as challengers? I mean, you know, they're still going to be up there, aren't they?
Of course they are. Yeah, they've got quality players. They've got Hazard. They've got Costa. They've got Fabregas in the first half of the season. But yeah, of course they'll be up there, and of course they're going to draw 0-0 at the Emirates, and probably they'll nick a win at Stamford Bridge. But it's what they do in the games against the lower opposition. I mean, you saw that they crumbled in the end against Swansea, and hopefully that will happen to them in other games. But yeah, for sure they're going to be challengers up with us and City. So
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah, fair enough. Bear with me a second, actually. I think I've got Hazard down the back of my chair here somewhere. No, I can't find him.
He's still in Bellerin's pocket.
He's certainly not at the Etihad today, that's for sure. Knob. Right, Jace. The one I'm going to give you a little bit of an unknown. In fact, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to be greedy with you. I'm going to give you Man United and Liverpool because I think they're both clubs that are a little bit in transition, a little bit unsure of what's going to happen. I think both really need to do a little bit more business before the window shuts, particularly United. Which of the two do you see as a biggest threat, and which of the two impressed you most? I know United have played twice now, but do you think either of those two are anything for Arsenal to be worried about?
We'll start with the red team in Manchester. It's one I still think, just my overall opinion on the season was we're 2 games in. Quality and experience win out over a season. There's still 36 games left to be played. We're still fine. There's so much more that can still happen for everybody, literally from the bottom of the table to the top of the table. With how things have started for United, I think they have some larger underlying issues with how Van Gaal wants them to play. Let me pronounce his name right, Louis Van Gaal. With how he wants them to play and how their players, when they actually get on the pitch, how they want to play. So I think they're going to take some time and have a slow start. The one thing that worries me is how slow they've started but still been able to get points. That's really, really worrying and frustrating because you need 3 things for a title-winning season. You need quality first. That's the first third. Then you need luck, and then the second one is you need the injury bug to stay away. And right now they're using their luck to get points that they probably shouldn't get. At a time when a lot of teams that you would consider to be around them on the table at the end of the year aren't getting those points. As far as Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers is an idiot with sausage-looking fingers. They have really sort of one decent player on that team in Coutinho, who's really probably one of the only people who worries me. I don't think Benteke is going to be their savior like anybody. You know, I think he's sadly probably going to end up going the way of Andy Carroll. And you have to play such a sort of single-faceted type of game to get Benteke involved, and I don't think that Liverpool are going to be able to do that. Rodgers wants to keep possession and build up from the back, and I think Benteke is great playing a much more direct, counter-attacking type of game. So it's going to be interesting for them. I think Liverpool probably gets back into Europe, but I just don't think Liverpool have the depth that they need, and I think if United gets Pedro, I definitely think that's going to boost them for the rest of this season. And let's just see hopefully the headline that I saw just after the game on Friday was Pedro reconsiders move to Man United even after 6 points from 2 games. Is this team really where he wants to be? So all those little, media tabloid things have already started to poke holes in it. But if they get a player like Pedro, who I don't think is on the level of Sanchez, but I still think he's a great quality player who would add something that United don't have that could help them get some points over some of the larger teams that they may have dropped without him.
Yeah. Yeah, very good points, and I think, and also don't forget the X factor. Liverpool are obviously in the Spurs Trophy on a Thursday night, and Manchester United are potentially subject to Bruges, which I think they'll get through, or be in the Champions League, which is another. We've seen how much it takes out of your squad come January, February, so that'll be a test for them.
We look at Ajax and Fenerbahce; they both got knocked out in the early rounds of the qualifying.
Absolutely.
Manx will. Then again, we probably don't want Manx to get knocked out too soon.
I was going to say we'd rather probably keep them in there because we can't
keep them busy.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. Although it would be hilarious if they went out to Bruges, I must admit. I would bring up Spurs, but quite frankly, they're irrelevant, so I won't. I'll just say, did you see them yesterday? I mean, that's all. There was a brilliant tweet actually from Messi Seconds, I think it was Joel. He tweeted yesterday after Stoke had equalised, and he went, "Spurs are just so." Well, Spurs. I just thought that was brilliantly summed up. So they're irrelevant in this discussion. We're going to start to wind things up. We've done sort of an hour, so we're conscious we don't want to assault anyone's earballs for too long. If there's anybody who wants to bring up anything that we haven't yet discussed in the chat room, now is your time. So please go for gold if you've got any questions for us. We did just want to bring up one final point while we're waiting for questions, which I know myself and Jace wanted to bring up. Jace, we were talking pre-pod about the need for clubs like ourselves to get points against the lower sides. And our main reason for that was because with the TV money that's come in, which has largely been forgotten, really, there are teams like a Swansea with an Andre Ayew, a West Ham with a Dimitri Payet. The lesser quote-unquote sides are bringing in some really good quality players, and I think are going to start taking more points off of the big boys. So we were discussing pre-pod just about how important it is for Arsenal to get points like they have at Palace today.
Yeah, it was actually a conversation that I had with our good friend the Swedish Fredrik Danell on Twitter a couple weeks ago about how at the time I thought, with West Ham, you look at that match and it's terrible, and I thought, okay, well they finished top half of the table last year, had a good season. Okay, they made a couple of purchases. Yeah, you should still beat them because they're below you in the table. And then sort of that was my thought. Frederick said, no, it's more important to beat the teams that are right around you, the big four, the United, the Chelsea. Those are the teams you want to take points off of. And I said, well, even if we dropped those points, we would have picked up the points against the lower teams. We could have won the league. And granted, that's the one thing about this league that's so entertaining and so fun. Every single game matters so much. You can't afford to drop points to anybody. But I think now it's becoming, and I conceded to Frederick on Twitter that I was wrong, and sort of rethought my philosophy on it. And yeah, it's something that you actually can do on Twitter, is admit that you were wrong. I don't know if you guys knew that. But now with the money that's being invested in these smaller teams, you're seeing teams like Stoke, who have always been, sort of the biggest spenders of the lower table teams. And mid-table teams, they're starting to put even more money into it. They're getting Shaqiris, they're getting Afales from Barcelona, and putting the money back onto the pitch, where I think before they would have, without this money, they would have saved it for the business side of it. Now they're being able to put this straight onto the pitch and buy these quality players. We've seen a lot of good quality players from all over the world come into these smaller teams where they can put that team on their back and shoulders and be the face of that team and try to help that team climb up the Premier League. And that's why now I think you're going to see the bigger teams drop more points against smaller sides. You're going to see us drop points against West Ham. You're probably going to see us drop points against Stokes and Swanseas and even Norwiches and Leicester Cities now, because the league as a whole, the money is sort of lifting all the teams from the bottom. Well, I do think that there's really a cap at the top. So if we're not moving up, and the teams at the bottom they're just getting closer to us. So now we've got to make sure that we do take those points off of the Chelseas, the Uniteds, the Cities, so that we can stay relevant with them in the table and stay even with them, because now those 6 points against them that you get at the end of the year could be so much, could mean so much more, because you've dropped points to a pretty decent Everton side who right now hasn't spent a whole lot, but is put together a decent result yesterday. And I think it's one of those issues where the smaller teams are going to get bigger, and the bigger teams, it's going to be harder to really separate yourself from them. So you've got to be able to do it through the quality of your play on the pitch, and make sure that you take all 3 points against teams that are closest to you in the table, to make sure that you're leapfrogging people, and making sure that those sides aren't the ones who are leapfrogging you.
Excellent point, and like you say, as you exactly what you've just said there, teams are moving on. Mid-table sides are becoming higher mid-table sides. If that, it sounds like a really silly thing to say, but the teams are like Man United got away with it last year because nobody was able to take advantage. As did Liverpool. This year, I think you'll see a Swansea, maybe even a Crystal Palace, that will be pushing for those top 8 places. Stoke Alona as well, of course. Tom, you just had 20 seconds to add on that sort of discussion as well.
Yeah, my opinion of it is that it won't actually affect Arsenal in a way, because I think that it's at the end of the day it's going to be the same for all the top 4 teams, because everyone's got to play everyone. So even though it is a point that needs to be addressed and everyone's known of, because it is that the teams are getting better. If anything, it will be good for our European coefficient, and you'd hope that teams that usually do crap in the Europa League would then have the quality to go on and do better, and they might be able to build a squad size large enough to take them through a Premiership season and not chuck in the Europa League early on and carry on.
Yeah, again, a very fair point, and thank you for making sure everyone knows that you've got to play everyone. That's important, that. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Danny, we had a question in the chat box, which I know Rob Parrott asked, and I'm going to ask you it, in fact. Rob wanted to ask, why do we invite so much pressure at the end of matches? Surely it would be smart to try and hold the ball at least for a little bit. What's your thoughts on that, Danny? I mean, I know we touched on it earlier, but have you got anything else you want to add to that?
Lack of central midfielders that can hold the ball, which is why I like to see Arteta come on today, because the cock had to go off, or he was going to be sent off. And then last season we didn't really have anybody to bring on because Arteta was out injured, the cock wasn't really there, and we were playing players in midfield who weren't really holders. So it's good the fact that we can bring on. I think if the cock wouldn't have been on the verge of being sent off, we might have seen Santi come off and might have seen Arteta go on and have 2 holding midfielders to just try and hold the game. I don't know. It's like I think Jason said earlier, get fed up of nail biting for the last 15 minutes, thinking we're going to concede a goal. It just absolutely drives me nuts. I don't know why they do it. It's like the players are convinced that they're going to let one in. So why the hell we just don't go out and go 5-0 up when we can, take our chances? Other than that, I have no idea.
It's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? I know there's two amusing questions in the chat room. Should we bring back Jenkins and put him in goal from Pete Geary? Yeah, absolutely, Pete. Yeah, definitely. And we also had one. Stan the Man asked a question for Jason. Where did you get your Arsenal wrapping paper that you've got behind you? I'd like to get it for Christmas. So there you go, Jace. I think you've answered that, haven't you? But I had one more. We'll do one more question, and then we'll leave you fine people in peace for this Sunday afternoon. And we'll just touch briefly on the dreaded T word. Transfers, sadly. I don't want to get into a long, massive debate, but actually, a friend of the pod did ask us, do you think that it's all an elaborate smokescreen? Wenger may be frustrating, but he's not foolish. We've lost Podolski, Sonogo, and Welbeck injured. Is there some sort of striker in the making? I'm going to come to all 3 of you on this, and I just literally want a very brief answer. And I don't want names, I just literally want are we going to bring a forward, whether that be a wide forward or a centre forward, in before the end of the transfer window? And if so, I want you to give me a percentage out of 100, what percentage you think we will, and briefly your reasons why. So Jace, I'll start with you.
That's, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to bring anybody in. Maybe.
Brilliant. How dare you not know?
I don't know. If it's a forward, I don't think it's anybody that we're like bidding for right now. It's going to be one of those things where maybe a couple of pieces, have to fall into place before we can get the guy that Wenger wants. Who that is, I don't quite know. Is it Benzema? Is it Lewandowski? Is it some I don't know. And if the pieces don't fall into place, we probably won't get them. But if the pieces fall into place, then we might get him, or we might not.
So
I don't know.
are you going 50% out of 100, or are you going slightly higher, slightly lower?
I'm going. I don't claim to know what Arsene Wenger's thinking because I don't even know if half the people at Arsenal know what Arsene Wenger's thinking. I will say 11%.
11%.
That's the percentage I'm giving.
You heard it first, Jason Schrader, ITK. Tom, what do you
OTK.
think? Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely, yeah.
yep.
Tom, what do you think? Percentage and the likelihood, if so?
If we're going to bring in a forward term, I think it'll be a wide forward. But if I was going to put my house on it, I don't think we're going to bring anyone in. So I'm going to give it a 30% chance of bringing someone in up top.
Fair enough, 30%. Danny, any advance on 30% from you?
I'll go less. I'll say there's a 20% chance because I'm just reading physioroom.com about Welbeck. A few days away from beginning full training as he is still suffering from bruising to the knee, but there is no serious damage and he should be up and running pretty soon. Comeback date 12th of September, which is about a month. So I think Wenger will say that we've got Giroud, we've got Walcott as our new striker because he's not played Walcott on the wing yet, and I think that's a sign that Walcott is going to be our backup striker, and then we're going to have Welbeck, and then if we need it, Sanchez. So there's 4 striking options. I don't think we're going to bring anybody in, although I'd love it if we did, because like I say with Flamini and Arteta, the more players you have to cover, the more positions, the better it is.
But there's a caveat to that, and if you'd have been listening to the great one from Aussie, Mr. Dom, he was saying, and again, a little cheap plug for his blog, give it a read, he was also saying about, don't forget, Danny Welbeck might be technically fit in, oh no, Chelsea are level, oh no, it's offside.
Offside.
He was saying that that obviously Welbeck's missed pre-season.
He hasn't seen it's offside. He's celebrating like a
Ramirez has
muppet.
got a face only a mother could love. But yes, Dom was saying that don't forget Danny Welbeck hasn't had a pre-season, so the likelihood of him being okay, he might be technically fit, i.e. not injured, but he's going to take probably another month on top of that to recoup and rehab and be ready and sharp. So yeah, I think I for my 10 pence worth again, I kind of agree with all of you. I think we'll probably end up going with what we've got, which I know will disappoint lots of people. But I do think we'll stick with what we've got unless the right one becomes available. And by that, obviously we're talking dominoes. You know, one of the big clubs has got to sneeze and the other big club has got to come and sweep it up. So, you know, Manchester United and Manchester City, for me, both need centre forwards. That could start the ball rolling, and things could change. Alexandre Lacazette was substituted for Lyon yesterday. Didn't look very happy about it. So there's some more rumour mongering for you. I've got a horrible feeling that Man City are going to bid a lot of money for him, but let's hope not. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Only the manager knows. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did bring someone in. But equally, I really wouldn't be surprised if we didn't. So get behind the lads is what we'd say. We should touch on our away support today, should we not? They were fantastic and good voice again. One of the best away supports in the league, in the country, bar none. So keep it up, guys, and safe journey home. Final thoughts, guys. Anyone want to add anything on a final thought? Tom, anything you want to sort of close out with?
Not much really. I think we'll win against Liverpool. That's all I can say. I think they'll win tomorrow, and I reckon Benteke could get on the score sheet for the first time.
Yeah, Bournemouth. It's a tough task for them. Jace, anything you want to just mention before we shoot out of here?
I'm very sad that Danny didn't offer me any of his sour cream and onion Pringles.
In fact, actually, we didn't have a Jason Trader drink update today. What were you drinking today, Jace?
I was not drinking this morning because it just passed noon here. Although that didn't stop me yesterday. But no, I've got some errands to run this morning. But we'll be attending. A friend of mine is having what they call a stock the bar party for their wedding. It's like a wedding shower, but all you do is you bring them alcohol, so that when you go back to their place, you have alcohol. So I bought them a nice bottle of Maker's Mark whiskey, and so I'll be probably having some whiskey or a beer later today. I will update everybody on Twitter. Follow me, hashtag Jason's Drinks.
Can I just ask something really quickly to each of you?
Yes.
Going, each of you. Danny, do you think Coquelin should have been sent off?
Yes, twice.
Jason?
Yes.
Kris?
Yes.
There we go. We're all in agreement then.
Yeah, we're all in agreement. I'm glad he didn't. But and also, I should just give a little shout to John, who's just put, "Get behind the lads. I've taken a blast in the face. Carpenters are pulling out the classics today." Yes, absolutely, John. I have been a little bit loose-lipped today, so apologies for that.
We have to pray for John because Borussia Mönchengladbach got an absolute whooping by the mighty Dortmund.
They did, but I'm not really in a position to talk about people getting whooped. So
don't tell them the result. You won 100-0.
Well, I'm not that disappointed. You know, they were favourites for the league. But hey ho, Danny, while you're there,
Yes.
I know we haven't finalised the pod lineup for Thursday, but do you just want to mention all things ABW?
Yeah, just go and give this the at the Bergie blogs, give them a follow, at the Bergie Radio, give them a follow, at the AFC podcast, give them a follow if you want. I think everybody knows about that one. We've got a new blog coming out probably on Monday from the blogging legend that is Goonaholic. He was kind enough to do one for us, so that'll be published sometime Monday. And the lineup this week is we've got no idea. Hopefully Raj is going to make an appearance. Oh look, John's getting all sweary. Right, how do you ban someone on this?
Blocked.
Yeah, so it's going to be me and Gimli. I think it's going to be Raj, maybe Dom, and maybe Kris. We're not sure yet because we never know until the last minute. So I think that's all there is.
It's whether we have to dig into the reserve team or not, isn't it? Really, but
We certainly do.
yeah.
We might get Arteta in.
Absolutely, after water carrying. Just a final one for me, obviously. Thank you to all of you kind people that have given the ABW Radio Twitter feed a follow. It's not going to be a very active account because we're mainly going to use it, obviously, for what we do today. But if you do give us a follow, we will follow you back. If we don't, just send us abuse until we do. And if you have an interest in coming on the radio show, we are looking for people. We can't promise how many will get on, how soon, and we have got a long list. But obviously, if people want to come on, drop us a DM. We'll road test you. Danny will send you on laps of Britain to make sure you're fit enough, and then if you're good enough, we'll
bloody Wi-Fi
No,
or
yeah.
iPad. If you do it from an iPad with Wi-Fi, you can bite me. You're not having it.
Yeah, Danny will come round and actually literally beat you around the head with an iPad. So please, no iPad. And also, please send your pictures to Tom. Tom runs our Instagram account, which you can find via at Bergkamp Wonderland, if I'm not mistaken. Send Tom your pictures, whether
There's
you've been.
underscores between A and Bergkamp and Bergkamp and Wonderland.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm
It's
sure
easier
Tom
just to
will,
have said A underscore Bergkamp underscore Wonderland because they won't let you do it any other way because they're shies and Spartans. I don't even know if that's a word. I made it up.
If you follow Tom at tcanter94, Tom will give you the links. I'm sure he posts them regularly. But yeah, give him a follow. And obviously, if you've got any, especially if you've been to the games, post us some pictures. But even if you've just been to your local bar, particularly if you're somewhere around the world, send us some pictures. And we had some really good FA Cup pictures last season. People all around the world watching things. So send us some pictures. And if you can crowbar ABW into the most random place in the world, send us a picture of something. Or if you can find the letters ABW on something random, send us a picture, and we'll tweet the favourite ones. But that's it from us today. We appreciate your time. I thank you all for joining us. Thank you as always to all my guests. So thank you to Tom.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry.
That's all right, mate. Not a problem. Thank you very much to Jace,
Thank you. Thank everybody for watching.
and thank you very much to Danny.
Thank you very much, and I've been at Jason Davies 71 if you have any complaints.
Don't unleash the dragon. So we have been a Bergkamp Wonderland radio show live, and we shall speak to you after Liverpool on Monday week. Cheers for now, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Bye bye, you cheeky monkeys.
Cheerio.